Welcome to Shelf Health. Today we're speaking with Shani Seidman, who is the CMO, of Kayco, which is the leading kosher brand house in the U.S. Brands like Manischewitz, Gerard Gardens, among others. And then prior to leading marketing for all of Kayco, Shani led marketing for the Manischewitz brand specifically, as well as another leading food distributor. So she definitely knows the space very well at a high level. Shani, just for the people that aren't that familiar with Kayco and all the brands under the portfolio, whatnot, maybe just give us super high level, just in terms of kind of origin story, how Kayco came to be, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Adam. First of all, thank you for having me on Shelf Health. So basically, Kayco is the leading kosher distributor in the United States, and it's a family-owned company. I think that like many companies wanted to serve the community, providing kosher food, starting with brands like Kedem, which has been around since the 1950s, and just expanding since then. As following the trajectory of Jewish culture, kosher Jewish culture, that has grown, and the availability of kosher products have grown. So, the company has expanded and adding more brands to the portfolio. And Manischewitz being one of those brands, I actually came from the world of Manischewitz. I was acquired with the family of brands that the Manischewitz company owned. And I came over to Kayco in 19. I transitioned the business, and then, I started running marketing for all of their kosher brands. And here I am in that role 6 years later, living the dream.
Living the dream. I love it. In 2024, you guys launched a pretty massive rebrand of Manischewitz. So definitely love to start there. What led to that decision to go through that pretty massive rebrand in the first place?
When I came here, I came from the brand. So I was working with the brand when it was before the rebrand. And when I sat in this office, I remember speaking to the CEO, and we're discussing the brand. What do you see? How do you see the brand? And I said, this brand needs a real shakeup. Not just the facelift that's cosmetic. It's more than that. We need some soul searching. We need to go to a real agency, do real research, get to where their brand identity makes sense, because it is a legacy brand. It means so much to so many people, which is why I feel very passionate about the brand, being a Jewish person who grew up with Jewish culture and traditions. I think that it deserves it. This brand doesn't deserve to just die. It would be very slow because has very big brand awareness. It needs it. I think the audience is looking for it, and it started from my interview here, and we took it from there. We have the leadership here is absolutely, which is very important to have a leadership that believes in that too. And that's really the why. Why is that the brand deserves it and its audience deserves it. And what it represents means so much to so many people.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I was just thinking the brand awareness. I mean, when you stop 10 people on the street and say, do you know what the brand Manischewitz is? 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, depends where you are. In New York, it's 9 out of 10, and maybe in Minnesota, 6 out of 10. They know what it is. The brand has awareness. It is in it because of what it represents. It has awareness. It's also in categories that are declining, and we're fighting a category decline, but with such big brand awareness. So we were balancing opportunity and potential with reality. And it was that's where the difference was. And we wanted to bring the reality up to the awareness. So that was a big goal of ours.
Part of the rebrand, I think you guys also launched a series of new SKUs as well. Assuming that my research is correct, what were those new SKUs that you launched as part of the rebrand? And just curious what the thought process was behind each of those new products.
Yeah. Great. It's a great insight that it came along with a bunch of new SKUs. again, it's not just a facelift. It was, okay, where are we now and where do we want to go? So right now we're offering very traditional products around the holiday time. So we're like kind of a holiday brand, and we're in, like, obviously we're in the kosher set. Where do we want to go? What do we want to provide? So we are like kind of a representation of Jewish culture through food. That's what we like, the identity of the brand, right? So, okay, so that makes sense that we have these portfolio of the matzah and the gefilte fish and macaroons. Again, fighting a declining category just because of trends and how people are celebrating holidays and who's celebrating. So we wanted our new products we knew that we weren't going to grow with existing. We're not going to get more people to buy gefilte fish or matzah. We're going to get people to buy delicious kosher cuisine, and who else to sell it? Who else has the authority to sell it? Manischewitz has the authority to sell it. So we're going to come out with products that represent Jewish food culture in the best way. And we're also going to do it in a format that's convenient. So I think back when the invention of like shelf-stable gefilte fish came out in the 1940s, 40s, when food and production in general was scaled and industrialized. That was innovation then, right? It used to be you had to prepare it for a day and get to go to the fishmonger and get the fish. Now we did it for you. So that was an innovation in a format not seen before. So we wanted to replicate that. So something like a frozen regalach that you par bake, you buy frozen and you bake off for 10 minutes in your oven, and you get, like, all of a sudden your home smells like a Jewish bakery. That is a new format for 2025 that we want to offer our consumers the same way we offered innovation 100 years ago. We're offering innovation in Jewish food now. Babka, we have a bake-off babka, the same thing. We actually have a streusel topping that you put on right before. Simple, it's so delicious. Frozen knishes we came out with. The frozen section really expanded because that is the format that people shop. People want the convenience of having it ready in your freezer. No one's going to make a babka. If you're in New York, you can get a babka at a bakery, but not everywhere in America can you get a babka at a bakery. We also have frozen challah and latkes, hors d'oeuvres, again, all in the frozen section. Because this is where, again, it gets us out of the kosher aisle, right? We're not in the shelf-stable kosher aisle. We're somewhere else in the store. So it gets our facing somewhere else in the store. And also it gets us out of the mentality of shelf-stable only, fresh, because frozen, once you bake it, feels fresh. So we also came out with hot dogs, which is a New York style, like a very Jewish deli style food, refrigerated section, obviously not frozen, but still we're getting into deli style foods because that's what every time we just want to you think of Jewish food, we're going to provide it for you. So that's where the identity of these SKUs came from. Is it an iconic Jewish food or a deli? Is it a great new format for our consumers? If that answer those questions, we're gonna provide it.
Yeah, those dots totally connect. Was part of the rebrand, and I'm just totally making some assumptions here, so you can tell me if I'm just way off base. But I imagine there was historically maybe a portion of the customer base of Manischewitz that maybe only really bought Manischewitz products around Jewish related holidays. Like they don't really think about it in their normal day-to-day grocery shopping, but they always think about it when they're buying stuff for Passover or whatnot. And was maybe part of the rebrand to maybe try to shift like more of that part of the consumer base to shift their mindset where they're not just thinking about it on those specific holidays, but it's something that every week they're going to the grocery store, they're thinking about Manischewitz and something they want to always be making on a more regular basis.
Yeah, you got it. Like you hit the nail on the head. Where like Passover is our Super Bowl. There's 50 other weeks a year we could sell products as opposed to just Passover. Like obviously we're going to be spiked. Our sales and consumer behavior will have holiday spikes like any other brand, but where we want to be an everyday brand. Shabbat happens once a week. The challah that you want to bring to Shabbat happens once a week. And the identity of the brand was for the culturally curious consumer, not just Jewish. So someone who's culturally curious and wants matzo ball soup will go to Manischewitz and have it. Similarly, like I have with my family, my kids love Taco Tuesday. I don't have cultural ties to tacos, and as a very Ashkenazi Jewish family, but my kids love Taco Tuesday, and we are culturally curious, and we go and buy the ingredients, and we have it. So why not matzo ball Monday? Why not have a family have matzo ball Monday, or on Shabbat for a family who wants to celebrate Shabbat once a week? So the idea of making it an everyday product, everyday brand is you're spot on. Just like there's like this resurgence of Jewish deli and bakery happening, especially in the tri-state area where people are Captain's Valley and things like that are just like iconic. We want to tap into that, not just because we're opportunistic, but because we have the right to own it. Because our families have been serving it for years. And we've actually have a matzo ball soup. And we actually have, all these things that are just like, we have a reason for being here. It happens, like you said, every day, every week. When people, it's funny around like Thanksgiving time when people not complain, but they talk about this big Thanksgiving dinner. It's like, I'm preparing. It's so many dishes. It's so much family over. Like there's so many courses. And we always joke, like, that's Shabbat every week. Literally, Thanksgiving dinner is Shabbat every week. And we're just so used to it that like the Thanksgiving dinner is like nothing for us. We actually have leftovers the next day on Shabbat. So like, it's part of our culture, like the family, the big meals, like it's not just on holiday time. And we invite anyone who wants to eat at our table, Jewish or not Jewish, to try our foods and eat with us, dine with us.
So once that decision was made internally, everyone aligned, okay, yes, we need to do this rebrand. What from there, what did the process look like and kind of the key steps involved? As an example, is like, okay, yes, we're deciding we're going to do this. Let's go now find the right agency we want to engage. And then you do some sort of discovery insights process. Then at some point you actually start, shifting the visual identity. Then you apply that to packaging. Then you have to go to production. Yeah. What did some of those kind of key steps involved in terms of actually going through the rebrand from beginning to end?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you definitely understand that process. Benefit of not being the very corporate. I mean, we're very scaled. Obviously, our portfolio is very big, but our soul is not corporate. It's family owned and it's entrepreneurship. So the beauty of that is that we're very lean in our decision making. It's wonderful. It's like me, the CEO, and we have some art directors that we want to get their input and stuff like that. But like, we were able to make decisions together that felt right for the brand. I think that it was easier, the process I'll get into in a minute, but I think just in general, like the way we made decisions, I felt like we put our egos, it had nothing to do with our egos. It had to do in service of this brand. I think everyone knew that it's something bigger than us. And it wasn't like we're trying to build something that's an extension of one person individually. It was like a representation of something much bigger than us. So when we were making decisions, like it was in that service and it felt like that. It felt like, let's say there was discrepancies, like when we're a Jewish company and we're very Talmudic in the way that we have meetings sometimes, for 3 people, 4 opinions. So like that happens a lot, but the discussions around it were, like I said, always in service of like the ultimate goal. When you operate like that, you come out with the outcome that we did, that we always wanted to make sure the soul was there and we were in the right direction. And the process, like you said, is, we decided, we were talking with JKR for a long time. They had pitched us some other business, and we felt like this was the right agency for this brand. They've done other JKR, Jones, Knowles, Ritchie, the global agency. They've done other legacy brands like Dunkin' Donuts and Bush. And they did Impossible Meat recently. They understand what's at stake when you do take a legacy brand and a brand that actually has a lot of nostalgia. And we felt like they were a good fit. We felt like they also took to heart the meaning of the rebrand and how powerful it could be and how meaningful it could be the way they assembled their team was very intentional. When we were kind of discussing our key audience, they wanted to make sure they had representation of that audience in the group, like the designers who grew up Jewish in tradition, who weren't Jewish, who knew Manischewitz, someone who didn't even know what that, someone from Kansas that didn't know. Yeah, maybe I heard of it, like me, the wine, maybe. So we have this amalgamation of people that represented what the awareness of the brand in all levels were and what the attachment to the brand was. So that was very intentional on their part. They brought in Lisa Smith, who is she's just like amazing. She brought the soul into the rebrand. There was a point where we were like, I didn't feel the soul was in there. And, we pushed it, like, it doesn't go with the outcome is always, there's a successful outcome. There's challenges along the way. There's no such thing as something that's like not challenged. If it's something good, there's going to be obstacles. And there was a point where like, I felt things were like flat, like we're missing the soul. And they brought Lisa in, and then from that moment, it turned around. But before we even did visual identity, like you said, we did unpacking. We unpacked the brand. We did a lot of research on what the awareness is, what the general perception of the brand is, where we want it to go, what the identity, what our tone of voice is, who we're representing, what our consumer is. We started with Jessica from Kansas, and then we reeled it in, realizing it's more Jessica from Long Island, like someone more Jewish adjacent, not necessarily Jewish, like doesn't know, like has never met a Jewish person. Like we just wanted, we refined, we defined, and then we refined, and then we defined again. And that is all we built into their process. Like the process is keep refining until your brand has a very clear identity and audience and message. And then we went to the visuals. We had such, I don't know if I'm stealing questions from you, from your outline, but we had such I'm like flying through. It's fine. So we had such a history of visual inspiration from the brand itself. Like we did not have to go outside the brand itself for inspiration. I always felt the brand was doing cool things all along. I don't have it with me because I'm not at my desk, but at my desk I have like all these old things from the 30s, 40s, 50s from the brand. I have this old cookbook I always pull out during meetings. And there's marketing tactics. They had meal planning in the 40s. I'm just saying, like, we're paying homage to a great brand who had great marketing minds all along, like partnering with Sammy Davis Jr. for the wine, like iconic. So it was just more of like making sure like we were letting the legacy shine while also looking modern to the future. So when we were looking at the visual identity, we saw orange, obviously, is a very equitable color. It's been a logo for decades. It's warm, it's nostalgic. It has like a very 70s and 80s tone to it, like a steepy, like, starched and also represents, I joke, if you take all our food and you do like, if you take a color palette from it, you'll just get the color palette of the brand. The browns and oranges. So the representation of that was all there. So like it was an orange, and the way, we got a typography artist to work on the logo, to add the little, again, a nod to like the Hebrew typeface on the top of the A, not like too distracting, but like tip of the hat. So like all along the way, it was just looking back, like being proud of that legacy, while also saying we have something relevant to offer going forward. And then the hard part, the whole process of talking and refining and defining and the visual identity took like a year. And then, and that was fun and a little scary, and fun, a little scary, but like ultimately like a good ride. And then the execution hits, and you're like, Oh my gosh, we have hundreds of products, several different manufacturers, printers, thousands of points of distribution. Our products are, some stores have inventory of old products. They still have 2 rebrands ago on their shelf. And you're like, what are you doing? The rollout for that was crazy because I had a plot forecasting with our purchasing and procurement and our teams. And then I had to look at sales data on like how, okay, the egg noodles, we purchase millions of film at a time, and it takes 6 months for this to replenish and 4 months to this SKU to replenish. I mean, if you ever see those memes of like people with conspiracy theorists, like the thread behind them, like the red, the strings, and like trying to figure out. I knew this because I do head up I head up marketing, and part of it is labeling, creative, printing, all that. So I understand that. I actually was like kind of ringing the bell early. And I was like, oh, we're just going to re-roll it out. It's going to appear on shelves. And I'm like, no, ding, ding, ding. No. So the cascade, I'm like, this is cascading and we have no control. So we need to understand that. At the same time, I realized that we have something that not a lot of other brands have, is that we have a fresh start every Passover. Okay, so not so fresh. Sometimes people sorts of old inventory that they put up. Okay, fine. But for the most part, Passover sets, clean slate. And I'm like, this is a gift. First of all, it's a gift because every media outlet loves their token Passover story, and they always ask Manischewitz for one. So we'll have one for them. And it's a gift because that's it. We get to start new. But at the same time, that means we had to like literally change over 200 SKUs overnight.
Thousands of locations, right?
So in thousands of locations everywhere. So in order to maximize that, because JKR gave us like 6 master mechanicals, and that was great. And then we had to blow them out to and thousands of iterations. So I have a designer here. He's amazing. His name is Boris. Shout out Boris. Together, honestly, like I feel like we just shut ourselves in a room and just did it. I stopped listening to anyone's feedback at one point because I love, putting things up on the wall and seeing how it looks. And then we didn't have that luxury. I wish I did because our focus group was actually our first Passover. I did not do a focus group. I understood that we were going to miss out on this. If we did that, we're going to miss out on a whole year. Even the CEO's feedback, I just wait. I was like, you know what? You're going to give me feedback once on the shelf. And that's very scary for me because you may not like all the decisions being made, but it's the only way to get it all on the shelf. And we did it. And Passover 2024 happened. We made the announcement. The shelves were a spectrum of orange and brown, and it was all there. It was like our billboards, and we rented some billboard space in the New York area, New York City, tri-state area, New Jersey, the Turnpike, and the feedback was better. I literally could not have imagined a better outcome, like in terms of the way media responded to it. I think it was like a perfect storm of, again, media, a lot of pride cropping up around this time with everything happening. And people were just really excited for like a Jewish story that wasn't like heavy, like food, tradition, brand, 130-year-old brand, rebranding, American brand, like the story like sold itself. I really believe that. And my team was amazing. That kind of was the process of like from when we'd started until when it hit shelves. Again, I'm leaving out like a ton of
For sure.
crazy stuff that happened along the way, but total learning experience for everyone involved. But yeah, I think we did okay. Some mistakes, but mostly successes.
Were there any decision points going through the rebrand process, whether it was like new messaging or the new look of the packaging, were decision points that were really contentious internally and that required a lot of debate at all?
Yeah, for sure. I think like the execution part is where I was like, don't get in our way if you want it done. For the strategic identity part, like I said, our discussions get very lively. I mentioned before, they're all in service of the end goal, which is the brand. But there were definitely points, like I said, we pivoted from our core audience. That was a big discussion. That was a big pivot. Like we reeled it in. We think that eventually everyone, like it'll be successful in Kansas. But that was a big decision to make. Our hero products. What are our hero products? Those are round table, like should it be the matzo ball soup? Should it be like, is that the one that's crossing over outside the kosher? Those kind of discussions. Identity also. We had this big discussion and are we a kosher brand or are we a Jewish brand? That at its core is a very big discussion.
Yeah, I imagine.
And so first of all, yes, we're both. A very Jewish answer is either or is yes. Yeah, okay. But so we're both. We're always kosher, but that's not our identity. Our identity is Jewish, and that took some back and forth. So, these kind of decisions at the core of the brand. And it's also because we had a room full of, it's like a microcosm of the audience. So we had a room full of perspectives that were very different. And it was really important to hear all of them. And again, this, I think, was unique to the Manischewitz rebrand, but I actually don't think it's unique in any branding exercise. Having a microcosm of perspective in a room is very important. Everyone leads with their own biases. I grew up with my association with this brand is this, or my association with this industry or product line is this. So you really need to take into consideration different perspectives when you form a brand identity. And even if the answer is, we appreciate this perspective, but that's not what this brand is, that is a very important decision to make early on. Because if you don't make those decisions early on as a brand, you will come across later making those decisions and not having the right people in the room, or not having the strong brand identity to make these decisions of like, who are we and who are we not? And they should definitely be discussions around it. Just like here, so everywhere in life, right? Decisions around identity have to be intentional. And when we set how does the brand show up? What's the tone of voice? If you don't do it early, then you will mess up when you get to social media, or if you're working with an influencer and you're not, they are amplifying your voice, but they say if you are not sure of your voice, then they can't amplify your voice for you. So those decisions have to happen early. They should have discussions around them. They should not be led by one person with one perspective. So contentious, no. But spirited, and passionate, yes. And by the way, one of our brand identity personalities is spirited pad, is a spirited personality, like a spirited passion. A brand is also, I have this way of comparing brands to people. I don't know if it's good or bad, but like a person is not one note. So like the brand doesn't have to be one note. We could show up in different spaces in different ways. Like we can be in social and be more playful, and we could be more serious and different. Like just like a person has different facets, or even like a family, like the weird uncle and like the grandmother, and like brands have that, and they're multifaceted. But it has to fit this narrative that is cohesive. I've often heard about like writers' rooms, and when they write about like characters, let's say on a TV show, a lot of times they have the question is like, would this character say that? Would this character do that? Like sometimes you're watching something and you're like, this is so weird. This character is like, this is so out of whack. So the brand is the same way. Would this brand show up here? Will this brand, and it's always in service of the audience. So you have to know your audience also. So these discussions were always around like, who's the audience, who's the brands, and like once you really get a real strong sense of that, it is so much easier. It also it just makes it so much easier for the world at large, or like to identify you.
Having those spirited discussions internally, I think, is super important. To your point, on the other side, it seems like more just really specifically in the kind of branding, visual identity design side of things, it seems like sometimes, decision by committees is often considered a less than ideal approach also in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So there's a difference between that's vision. So I think that identity discussions should be diverse. The discussions around identity should be diverse, but once decided, you need someone with vision that sticks with it. So, like I said, when we like kind of locked ourselves in a room, obviously we just like worked really hard up here in the marketing floor. It was more that you need the vision to be very consistent. And if you keep getting feedback, and which is why I also blocked out feedback, this should look like this. You know what? Maybe we should add this. No, we're not adding. We're not changing, not because I'm rigid or I'm not holding it too precious. You have to learn when you have to be flexible, especially with different design pack sizes and things like that. You just need that flexibility. You can't always be in this one box, so to speak. Like we designed this on a box and now this is fine. So there's that. Good designers understand that. They get it. But the vision has to be singular. And I find that, yes, art direction in general, like if I have a project, there's one art director on the team. And if it's not me, Manischewitz is me. But if it's not me, unless someone asks me, especially the art director, I will definitely give feedback. But I know if there's an art director that's involved with something, my perspective on that will muddy. And it's very hard for creative people to like rein that in, but it's even harder when you're like steering the ship to make sure you have that vision and you stick with it, because absolutely, some things are a little subjective also. I have feedback. Oh, I didn't like the orange. Someone told me, I think you should use less orange. I'm like, okay. I'm not gonna. Like we did sometimes, because it was like intense. We did like walk away, but we did it strategically, not because someone in passing gave us that feedback. Oh, you know what you should do? So like those kind of comments. The committee is for discussion and to get the vision right. And after that, the vision you have to be very clear on it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
For sure.
From a number standpoint, when you're getting ready to actually roll out this rebrand, what were some of the key metrics that you were focused on that you were going to use to kind of gauge the success and impact of the rebrand?
That is difficult because it was in general, this specific brand is an uphill battle because of the trend. Like not just for Manischewitz, or, for gefilte fish, not just for Manischewitz, as a trend, that can be declining. So you're up against a wave of declining categories. But all along, our strategy was to redesign that, but that's not our focus. Our focus is on new and our hero products and how we're going to cross over. And we always knew it wasn't. I'm not looking at the numbers of our existing portfolio to see if we made a difference. I'm actually making sure that we have some growth, but at least like there is no decline. To me, that's an increase because you're fighting against something that's already declining. And you know what? Trends could change. I think we're seeing a resurgence of people having more seders. So I think there is a world in where matzah sales rise. I really believe that. I believe the format there's so many ways to do it. I see a trend that's happening. But immediately our focus one is on our hero products, what our new consumer is going to buy, not existing. Our existing consumer will buy what our new consumer will buy. And that's our touch point and our metrics. And we're seeing successes in the product that we're releasing, like our hot dogs. We're seeing, our distribution our points of distribution. We're seeing retailers take it. We're seeing getting a new aisles of the supermarket. Those are our wins. We're going to celebrate them. And we know it's a long game. I feel very lucky that we all, we're not short-sighted enough to know that the first Passover is going to make it or break it, or even the second. I appreciate that we all have, the brand's been around 130 years, we say. It's been around 130 years. We can give it a couple years. We have the courtesy to give it a couple years. What I'm seeing now is like, we have like a seat at the cool kids table at lunch, before the rebrand, like all of these big influencers would not even we'd reach out to them and they'd be like, oh, I guess I say, I'll take your money. It's just like, don't know. Especially with the Manischewitz food truck that we launched, they're reaching out to us. We are sought after. We are relevant. There's no numbers on that, right? There's no number right now, but the relevancy, the fact that that Jewish influencers and then non-Jewish influencers are reaching out to us. I want to work with this brand because I see it as a growth brand. I see that as a huge win.
Are there any metrics that jump out that maybe are often focused on that are actually not that relevant and can maybe a bit of a distraction and maybe create a bit of a distorted view in terms of the impact of a rebrand or some big initiative that a brand does in general, let's say?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say you need to wait. The scan, you have to, getting sales data too soon is detrimental. Yeah. I think we are obsessed with our rebrand as marketers because we live and breathe them and we're passionate people and we're creative people and it's all we think about. But the average consumer doesn't even notice, or it takes them a year to notice. These things take time. It's interesting. I was at the Fancy Food Show last year. I was there this year. This year, I got a lot of, I just saw you just rebranded. It's been 18 months. But this is normal. This is, first of all, so much noise. There's so much noise out there, especially within the digital age. To expect to get through and have sales change in one season or even 3 or 4 seasons, I feel like is really detrimental to long-term growth. I think that the big thing is to be patient. And obviously in social media, the metrics are always changing because the targets, the algorithm's always changing. I don't think you want to be just viral. And I don't think you need to just increase your followers. I think you have to have meaningful engagement. That to me, beyond looking at just numbers, comments, shares, when people really engage is what's really more meaningful.
Someone that's leading another brand, maybe, a bit behind you in terms of years of experience and all that they've done. They're saying, hey, we're about to embark on a rebrand as well. And maybe 2 or 3 things that you'd recommend they should keep top of mind or kind of use as their North Star or the other side, things to watch out for.
Okay. Brands, I mentioned it before, but brands need identity more than you think. Brands need a story around it. People engage and relate. We're humans and we relate to stories. It's the way to have real brand awareness. That is somewhere, I am guilty of this too. Sometimes I jump to what it looks like to the end. So also just my history and the creative arts, your brain just visualizes.
Right.
You take the time to establish your brand identity and take the time to be clear about it, who you are and who you're not. Us on one side of it, it's really important. And again, it's okay to have discussions around it. It's okay to not be clear on day one. I think people think they need clarity. They need clarity. There's so much thought and indecisiveness that goes along with it. It's good. It's part of it. It means you're going to have a meaningful outcome if you think about it and you have these moments of, are we this? Are we that? Are we not? That you need to, it's almost a struggle that weeds out what you are and what you're not. That's on one side of it. And the second thing of it is know your audience. Not just okay, my audience is someone who buys this. Know your audience so well, you know what their day-to-day life looks like. Know your audience, just study them. Is this your target audience? Why Who are they? What are they doing? What's their buying behavior? Why are they buying like this? You have to know your audience so well. This is psychology. Marketing is for psychology for sociopaths. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not.
I mean, not really, but sort of. But like, it's because you have to understand who you are and you have to understand your audience. Like without these two things, you're just selling, it's consumer. You're just like, you're asking someone to consume something. So maybe you'll get one sale, but you won't get a customer, or you won't get someone who is like dedicated to your brand, like a follower. So like you want those meaningful return customers that one day in 50 years will be this nostalgic for your brand. Like that's also, I think, like I wanted this brand to become a nostalgic brand. Like, how do I do that? You have to make an emotional attachment, and that's how you do it. And so like who you are and who your audience is. And then last thing is your goal for the brand for both you and your audience. Like you need to okay, where we are now and what our goal is. Like this is where the brand is now and what I want the goal is. If those are your North Stars all the time, every decision you make will be, is this us? Is this talking to the right audience? And is this going to where we want to go? If you have those three things in mind, you're golden. Or maybe not, but at least you'll learn.
Yeah, those are really helpful. What's the best place to follow along with you? And then these days, what's the best place for people to follow along with the Manischewitz brand as well?
Okay, so we're on our social platforms. We're on Instagram. I think that's our biggest. We're growing our TikTok presence. I think that just growing our audience and growing TikTok presence in the same trajectory, because we're just targeting those new audience. We're in both of those spaces. I personally am on LinkedIn. I share news about what we're doing in trade, what the brand's doing professionally. About me also, I think I also share things about other brands that we're working on because Kayco has a portfolio of brands that I manage. So I actually think that some people are naysay LinkedIn. I find that it's a space that can be very helpful and it's a nice place to go to share industry insights. So that's where I am professionally right now. Yeah, like I think you'll be seeing more. Go follow the food truck. If you're in New York City, we're all around town. So that's where you can find us.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, yeah, appreciate the time, Shani. It's been really helpful. Really appreciate you sharing the insights on the rebrand. And appreciate the time. I think that's it. That's the pod.